Hello, guys. How is everyone? I hope you are safe and uplifted and happy and all of that jazz. So those of you who have been following the Create Nation movement, first of all, let me say thank you, thank you, thank you. As you know, we do our lives on Teach Tuesday, and I bring on somebody who can bless us with some knowledge on Tuesdays. However, today is a special live because a very special event happened today. And I was like, we have to talk about it. So, one of my favorite sitcoms, okay, now I'm not just saying that because I directed it, I'm saying it because it's really funny, it's really lighthearted, it's grown. But one of my favorite sitcoms has decided to stream for a limited engagement on YouTube. And I am super, super excited about it. But you guys know that I believe there is power in the story. And so the story of how we got from a streaming platform, a online network, to YouTube and now to whatever is to come next is a journey. And I really wanted to bring on the creator, the producer, the writer of 3030 the series so we can talk about it. Sometimes things look so easy. They look like everything is going the way it's supposed to from the outside. But bringing this show to life has been a joy, and there have been ups and there have been downs. So right now, we want to talk about what that looks like. So on your journey, you don't get discouraged because here we are in 2020 with 2 seasons, okay? This is a #1 show that is on a very successful network. And we are going to bring it to you guys on YouTube. And we really would love your support. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on our guest. I know this young lady just a little bit. Her name is B.Danielle Watkins. If I listed her accomplishments and her bio and what she does, we would be on here for a very long time. So I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to say is she is a creative who is not only dreaming about what she wants to do and how she wants to impact the world, she is executing, and she's executing in excellence, okay? This is not just someone who is a screenwriter. She definitely has novels under her belt, and she is working, I heard, on her first play as well as so many short films. But the series 3030 is something that she is really proud of, and I am really honored to be a part of and have her be a guest. So please join me as I bring in B.Danielle Watkins. Hello. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Oh, look at that. Jasmine loves 3030. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So it took a long time to get to YouTube. So let me tell you guys.
A long. I fought every piece of the way.
B.Danielle feels so strongly and highly about her work, which we all should, that going on a platform like YouTube, that wasn't the end game. Like, we have so many content creators. Now, I teach people how to be a YouTube star, right? However, so many content creators think that that's the ceiling. That's the only place for their work. And from the beginning of this project, B.Danielle was like, I have a different vision, And that vision came to pass. So it's an honor that now you're going to share all of this work with the YouTube community. So first and foremost, tell us who you are and what inspired 3030.
So I'm telling you who I am when it comes to 3030. That's it. We just
No, first tell me who you are. Period.
Well, I'm gonna cap it at this very moment. B.Danielle Watkins, I am the creator, star, writer, and producer of the Reverie original series 3030, which is now on YouTube. In addition to that, I am an award-winning director. I've been in film festivals all over the world. I have novels. Um, what else have I done? I've been writing professionally for almost 10 years. Next year it'll be 10 years. Um, yeah, I
Yeah,
have a lot.
that is a lot, and that is awesome sauce. So we went through a surge where there were so many digital series, as you correct us all the time. We are not a web series, we are a digital series, right? And it seemed like everybody wanted to basically be YouTube famous. And you came up with the concept for this show, and you were like, YouTube is not our final destination. So can you take our audience through what that thought process was like for you?
Well, we were coming behind some of these big powerhouse shows, right? So we're coming in on the tail end of Studville TV. We were coming in on a tail of Lovers and Friends and all these different shows where there was this long dramatic season of lesbianism, right? And number one, there were 1,000 of them. Every week there was a new drama series on YouTube circled around black lesbians. They were coming out of DC, they were coming out of LA, they were coming out of all these different cities, but they were the same format. You know, it was the drama. There was nothing funny about any of these shows. So when Sarita and I decided that 3030 was important to us and that we were going to take what we had lived and turn it into a show, number one, we didn't want it to be heavy. We're lesbians day by day. Our lives are heavy, anyways. We wanted to bring the comedic side, the light side of what it was to be lesbian to our community. But at the same time, we didn't want to get caught up in the shuffle of the YouTube search engine.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
You know, it's one thing to start from ground zero and say, hey, we got a new show, figure it out. Because essentially that's what we did today. We just dropped a series, right? To a community that had nothing about us. And I didn't want to start off like that. I
mm-hmm,
needed to go somewhere where we were going to touch into a different audience. We
mm-hmm,
were going to go into a different level and still have that same idealism that came behind the show.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I have a couple of questions about that. One is you talk about the comedy aspect, and 3030 is a sitcom. And I think sometimes people group all series together. Um, so can you tell us, so our audience knows, like, what is a sitcom? How is that different than some of the other things that we're seeing?
Okay, so sitcom means situational comedy, which means that for every episode, there's a situation and there's a funny thing that happens during that situation. And then the next episode has no connection to the sub storyline of the episode prior to, unless it's said to be continued. 3030 is modeled after things like Living Single, the Golden Girls. Obviously, you know the Golden Girls. I love that show. And like Martin, it was about the single life and matriculating through friendships.
Mm-hmm,
But compared to the other shows who have adopted more of a soap opera storyline,
mm-hmm,
where you have 10 episodes in a season, and episode 10 is explaining something that happened to episode 1.
mm-hmm.
And that is not the format of 3030.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So for you, because you've obviously written narrative series, soap opera type series, all of that stuff. How was creating 3030 different?
Well, it started off different because it was my life. It was interesting to sit down and take something that had happened. And like, for instance, from season one, episode two, when Sarita really got beat up in real life, right?
Mhm.
When the girl came in the house and I let her in.
Mhm.
It's funny, that was funny to me. It's never been funny to her. you know,
Yeah.
regardless of how it went down, it has never been funny that I let that girl in the house and went back to bed and she got beat up, right? But I had to sit down and take that and make it funny to the masses.
Right.
I had to then take all these different pieces and put comedy in it. I had to show why Tyler was oblivious. I had to show why Zola was upset. I had to show why Lee came in there on a rampage. And so that was different because it's different taking what you lived and turning it into something for the screen.
Right. And I think that is hilarious that this is your real life. Okay. So I do not want you guys to like skip over that, because if you've seen 3030 already, then it's hella funny. And there's some stuff in there that you're like, this cannot be real.
Like
However,
how did that happen? Right.
it's very real. It's very real. So, Sarita, who plays Zola, is who she is to you on the show in real life, right?
Right. Right.
So, how long have you guys been friends? How long have you guys known each other?
Sarita and I became friends my senior year in high school. I was 16, she was 17. So we have been friends since 2001,
Wow. Wow.
which is how we can have a show like this, because that's a long time to be close to somebody.
Right.
And that's a long time to be best friends, because best friends do different adventures than regular friends.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
Regular friends don't hang out and go home. When I graduated from college and came back to Las Vegas, Sarita and I lived together.
Mhm.
And oh boy,
Wow.
Tyler was full control, right? Like, we were crazy. Actually, I feel like the women she was with was crazy, and it was really just her choices in life that got us to this point.
Wow. So let me ask you this. How close are you to your character? And how close? So I know the situations are real life situations, but your character is a little hard to swallow, right? And Zola's character is, about that whole life. So
Right.
how much did you have to like embellish to bring these characters to life?
We turned into caricatures of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always been the hard one, right? And she's always been the float in the world. Like, she's always been the reason we got in some shit. It didn't matter what it was. She's always been the reason. And I've always been the one, take me home. Like,
Uh-huh.
I didn't care. Like, I want to go home. I don't want to do this. That's always just been me. Now, Tyler is very eccentric.
Uh-huh.
She's very eccentric and she's very rude.
Uh-huh.
I'm not that eccentric. That takes way too much energy. Tyler takes a lot out of me.
Okay. What about
I
the
enjoy
part?
playing that rude part, though. I enjoy that. I enjoy that a lot, because there are times in real life that I can't be that.
Right.
And Tyler, just her filter doesn't exist.
Right.
Especially when we got to season two and we all were able to really expand on our characters, and Tyler was out of control.
Yeah. Yeah. Season 2 is
Zola
like,
was too, but Tyler was out of control.
so tell me about this journey now to YouTube. And is it okay to talk about Reverie and becoming an original series and the successes that you had with that platform?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, Reverie is the reason why we are where we are today. Reverie gave us a chance when we had absolutely nothing. Reverie, we I don't even know if we were finished editing completely when Reverie said, "Yeah, not only do we want you, but we want you to be an original series for us."
Mhm.
So from day one, when I said I didn't want to go on YouTube, moving on to when they sent us that contract in May of 2017, Reverie took a chance on us.
Mhm.
And as much as we wanted to be above, right, we needed a platform to do so.
Right.
We went into season one completely blind because when I wrote season one, we only had 6 episodes. They were what, 13 to 17 minutes. And we were really just testing if anybody would even watch it because it was
Right.
so different. So it was like, hey, I have a show, but it's kind of like a tester. We're going to do a second season. But first season is just kind of like to test the waters and
Mhm.
see if people are going to enjoy what we're doing. And they
Mhm.
said, okay, and they gave us that space to do that. They gave us the space to grow. They gave us the space to turn around and complete a second season and then go back, and premiere in Los Angeles and do all these different things.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
So essentially, Reverie put us in a space and gave us an opportunity that many don't get.
Right.
And
Right.
for that, we are beyond thankful for that.
Mhm.
Put us in places that we never thought about going. Like,
Mhm.
did we ever really think we would go be at YouTube studios
Mhm.
and our faces would be on the screen?
Mhm.
Like, we never thought that would happen.
Right.
So when like Sarita tells me all the time, especially as we've been transitioning,
Mhm.
Sarita's like, well, ultimately, we did more with 3030 so far than we thought we was going to do.
Right.
So if we do anything else anymore, look at what 3030 accomplished by
Mhm.
itself.
Right. Right.
And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with our first season ending number two, and we were
Mhm.
unknown. We were unknown actors. We were unknown everything. Reverie was a brand new streaming service.
Mhm.
Reverie had only been active for 2 years, not even.
Mhm.
And then here we come.
Mhm.
So it was just like, it was a blessing,
Right.
but everything comes to an end and things change.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's where we are.
Mhm. So, what is it that you hope will happen with this limited run on YouTube?
Honestly, I want us to be exposed to the YouTube fan base.
Mhm.
Because on Reverie we were very exclusive. There's such an exclusivity
Mhm.
with paid platforms, right?
Mhm.
Number one, everybody ain't gonna pay for it.
Mhm.
Number two, everybody's not privy. Number three, everybody doesn't have access.
Mhm.
And now we're going from that club, right? That elite club, and we're coming over to this new club.
Mhm.
And now we have to enter the realms of these heavy hitters on YouTube and
Mhm.
try to show them our style of a
Right.
show.
Right.
We So essentially, we're just trying to see. I know we can hold our own, but
Mhm.
we need to make sure that we can pull in the same crowd we were pulling in
Right.
somewhere else.
Right. And so when we talk about the atmosphere of YouTube right now, and it's such a beautiful thing that there has been an explosion of content that represents queer women of color. But when you are a content creator, that can be a little intimidating, especially when you are not following the format that a lot of people are used to. So,
Right.
what is it that you hope the audience feels when they're watching 3030?
I hope the audience feels the realness.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you look at the cast, we're not a bunch of actors that came together and never knew each other. Our cast is a cast of friends,
Mm-hmm.
and that translate on screen, and it's so much easier to relate when you don't feel like the relationships are being forced.
Right.
So then you stop paying attention to the acting, and now the storyline catches you because it comes so natural.
Mm-hmm.
So I want them to feel what we felt the first time we saw it.
Mhm.
The first time when we premiered season 1 in my living room,
Mhm.
right? And we're sitting in here, nobody else had seen it, and we were able to act like it wasn't us. We were
Right.
able to enjoy it. We were able to laugh. We were able to feel like, yo, this is a show.
Mhm.
So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the YouTube masses to be able to relate, because
Mhm.
that's been the whole thing this whole time, is to be able to relate to us.
And speaking of the relating aspect, what does 30/30 mean? Like, why is that the title of the show?
Well, the show originally was supposed to be called 30 is the New 30.
Mhm.
So thinking back to when Orange is the New Black first came out,
Mhm.
30 is the New 30. And then I was like, that's too many words. That's too much. You know, but the reality of it is 30 is 30, right? We
Mhm.
not 25 anymore, but we not 40. We're in this transition period when you know what you want. You're in a different space, but you ain't grown, but you
Right.
ain't young either.
Uh-huh.
And especially coming out of Sarita having been divorced,
Mhm.
me being the eternal single, right? And we
Uh-huh.
were coming into our 30s having been that. And now, boom, what's next?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And I feel like there's so many people that will relate to that. Um, that feeling, even if they're not in their 30s, but just that
Right,
what's next? I followed this formula, and then when you find out the formula is not right, and it's
right.
really just about
Doesn't,
living your life.
does not work.
Yeah. So before we do some more questions about the show specifically, because I really want to talk about season 2 and how we can get you to release season 2 on YouTube. I wanted to talk about more of the business side now, because especially with my Create Nation movement, it's all about creatives and killing the notion of the starving artist and really living in their dreams. And so we know you're a filmmaker, and we know several amazing filmmakers. However, creating a digital series is a beast. It is a beast. And so I would rather shoot a feature than a series. I would rather produce that because of how time consuming it is. But there are so many aspiring filmmakers and writers out there who have these brilliant ideas that they can see in the form of a series. So first of all, what were some of the challenges that you faced while creating season 1 and season 2 of 30/30?
The biggest challenges was getting actors that we were going to be able to say, hey, we need you, and we don't need you just once. Like, if you get this role, understand that this role is going to matriculate throughout the duration of the show, whether we have one season or 25 seasons. I
Mm-hmm.
need your commitment to that.
Right.
And this is this outside of Sarita and I, this it was the second cast. Because when we were going to film the first time, we
Mm-hmm.
had a different Rocky, we had
Mm-hmm.
a different Lim, we had a different set of people.
Right.
And to be honest, I don't know what the show would have looked like with that original cast.
Right.
To then turn around and bring in Eric and
Mm-hmm.
bring in Nor,
Mm-hmm.
and to change the dynamic of what that would look like.
Right.
And then the money, you know,
Mm-hmm.
filming anything isn't free, right? You got to have a camera crew.
Mm-hmm.
You have to feed people. Like, people don't really think about the fact that you have to feed people. Like, when
Yeah.
you're on set for 16 hours, that's 3 meals.
To a bunch of people, not a few
Right, that's three
people.
meals for everybody.
Yeah.
And if you film it for 7 days, that's 21 meals
Mm-hmm.
that you're paying for. It was just the discipline, because essentially it became discipline. It
Yeah.
became, if this is what I want, the challenges don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
I need money, I cash out my 401k.
Mhm.
What do you do to make sure you tell your story the way you want to tell it?
Right.
You need a location? Okie dokie. Let me find somebody that has location knowledge. Let me find somebody, find your tribe, right? You find
Mhm.
the people that assist you and get you to where you need to go.
Mhm.
And that isn't always easy either.
Right.
It took a while for Michelle to be our location person. I had been
Mhm.
making movies 3 years before Michelle started looking for locations for us.
Mhm.
It's just, and in season two, with it being larger,
Yes.
season two then became this drawn out production.
Mhm. Mhm.
2 full weeks of filming,
Mhm.
extras galore,
Mhm. Mhm.
and it still becomes okay. You need to be deliberate in what you're doing.
Right.
You need to be deliberate in your casting. You need to be deliberate in who your crew is.
Mhm.
Because then, of course, we know that when I get on set, I'm no longer a producer,
Right.
right? So before day one, I need to make sure all of this is handled
Mhm.
because then I got 10, 15 episodes
Mhm.
that I need to remember and film and act and do all these different things.
Right.
And I still need all these other pieces to run smoothly.
Mhm.
I don't need to be pulled out of character because something didn't work.
Right.
So you have to be able to put together a machine that'll run on its own
Mhm.
because if it doesn't, then what?
Right. Right, absolutely. So speaking about you also starring in the show and Sarita playing, who she is in the show, what made you guys decide, because neither one of you guys are actors. So what made you guys decide that the story would be best portrayed by you two, as opposed to, thinking about bringing somebody else in to tell your story?
Because it was 2016, right? When we even thinking about this.
Uh-huh.
And brought it up and she said, sis, we should make a show. And I was like, yeah, no, because you're not going to do nothing. Like, we always got these bright ass ideas, but she not going to put in the work. So I was like, yeah, no, we're not going to do this. So as we talked about it some more, I said, well, if we do this, who's going to play us?
Mhm.
And she's like, oh, I don't know. I said, like, who are we going to bring in that can be.
Uh-huh.
I said, if I'm gonna do this, you need to say you're gonna play you and I'm gonna play me.
Uh-huh.
And she's like, well, I guess she's so damn nonchalant about life. She's like, yeah, I guess we can do it. But then she realized, oh shit, I gotta for real. Like these are 6 scripts. Yeah, read that today.
Yeah.
We knew that there's no actor out there that's gonna be able to come in and be us
Right.
convincingly. Our timing is natural because this is us.
Right.
It's different than having to teach somebody
Mhm.
how I would react to her shit,
Mhm.
or having to teach somebody to not react to me.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's what we've been doing since I was 16 years old.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it just almost came to a point where it was like it doesn't even make sense
Right.
to cast somebody else.
Right. And I feel like people feel like that's an easy decision. Like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna star in my show. But it is tremendous pressure when
Oh
you
man.
are wearing so many hats.
Oh, tell me about it. I do it all the time.
And then, when you are Tyler, you have to relinquish those reins, to other
Right.
people. And you did a very, very, very good job with that, because once you were acting, that's it, unless it was an emergency. But you
Yeah,
were,
unless it was a full emergency, right?
yeah. So we talked about how season one, I'm sorry, had 6 episodes that were, 15 minutes or under. Season two, however, has how many episodes, and how long are those episodes?
It has 10. Reverie only released 9.
Mm-hmm.
But it has 10 episodes. And I believe the shortest is about 22 minutes. The longest is like 28. Just
Okay.
something like
Okay. Sitcom time.
yes.
And so now you're saying Reverie didn't release one of those episodes. Are you able to share why, and or if you do release season 2, will you be including that?
If I release it, I will include it. And they didn't share it because they didn't feel that it would represent their brand well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I understand.
Mm-hmm.
We don't feel that way.
Right.
So providing that I do release season 2, it will be a part of it.
And so Eric is saying yes to releasing that episode. Yeah, yeah.
Because
Um,
that's Eric's like star episode.
yes, it is. It really, and it was so much
I
fun
watched it
doing
the other day and I was like, damn it.
that.
That boy is good.
Yes, it looked good too.
Oh my gosh, right? Season 2, even though season 1 looked amazing,
Mhm.
we came out of the gate with good quality. Season 2,
Yeah,
oh my gosh, it's so colorful, it's so lively, it's awesome.
yeah, it really is. So when you said that it wasn't, Reverie didn't feel like it was a part of its branding. That is something that happens when you are partnering or under other streaming platforms, the level of control that you ultimately have. So for you, what is it that you see for your future in regards to the places where you want to show your content and having somebody tell you, no, you can't show this? Is that something that you want to continue to be a part of?
To be all like completely honest, my biggest issue with going from being independent to mainstream is that
Mm-hmm.
me losing creative control is something I never wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Because I write a story for a reason. I
Mm-hmm.
don't write code. I wrote that episode for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
I write our episodes for a reason, and I don't want to go anywhere. I never want to be in a space where I'm confined.
Mm-hmm.
Creatively, personally, period. I don't want to be in a space where I have put my creative all into something, and because your vision isn't aligned with mine, you're going to tell me no.
Right.
Because it didn't matter what we had to say.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't matter that what they saw and what we portrayed were two different things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It didn't matter.
Yeah.
All that mattered was they were fearful of what the assumption could be.
Mm-hmm.
But then we premiered it here in Las Vegas to a full club
Mm-hmm.
of strangers who loved it
Mm-hmm.
and looked at us and said, "Well, we watched season 2 on Reverie. Why isn't that there? Oh my God, we love this episode." And Eric and D and I are like this, because we can't say, they didn't fucking want us to put it on there,
Right.
but like the content of the episode isn't what they made it out to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I never want to be in a position like that again
Mm-hmm.
where I I feel like my time is wasted because I wrote the episode, we filmed the episode,
Mm-hmm.
and now we've edited the episode, and you want me to hide the episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I never want to do that again.
Right. I am definitely just a huge advocate of indie anything, indie filmmakers, indie music. Um, I just really feel like when you are in the independent lane, you are able to really try different things. You're able to really explore. And unfortunately, the thought process is if you're indie, it's because you can't make it mainstream. However,
Oh,
there are so many indie artists who choose to be independent artists for that very reason. Everybody's goal isn't um, to be Hollywood or to be mainstream, or the measure of success isn't always what outsiders feel it is. because Rev 3030 was extremely successful, where it was, and it's about to be really successful on YouTube as well, you know? And, you know, some people may look at that as, well, if you're on Netflix or you're on Hulu, but they don't understand the sacrifices the creative has to make when you enter
Right.
into that
Right.
realm.
Like I'll never forget when I took that very first screenwriting class right before I was coming to Atlanta to teach that workshop for
Mm-hmm.
Empower
Mm-hmm.
in 2013, we're gonna say.
Woo!
You know, I go to this class and there's this Emmy winning screenwriter teaching me.
Mm-hmm.
And the first day of class he says, this is what you'll learn, and this is the only thing I ever want you to think about. And everybody's ready, everybody got their pen
Yeah.
ready. He's like, never get married to a story because when you sell it to Hollywood, they're gonna change it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck I write it for? What do you mean? When I sell it, it won't be my story.
Mm-hmm.
And then he went in to explain when we watch, you watch a movie and it says based on a story by, and
Mm-hmm.
it's one name, and then the
Mm-hmm.
screenplay has another name
Mm-hmm.
because they bought it from that person, so they had to give him credit. But
Mm-hmm.
they never thought he was good enough. They never thought that story was good enough, so they hired somebody else to fix it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And now 7 years later, I'm that person that gets hired to fix that other
Mm-hmm.
stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I understand it differently on the other side,
Right.
but still, as a filmmaker who writes for myself, still
Mm-hmm.
I feel some type of way about putting my heart into a story, and for someone to tell me my story isn't good enough because they
Right.
have that control.
Mm-hmm.
You don't control my creativity.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. How could you possibly tell me what was good enough in my mind?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that's the way of the world. So you're right. When we fight between going indie and going mainstream, it is a constant battle because you can go mainstream and I could sell a script for $300,000,
Mm-hmm.
but you'll never see my story on screen.
Right. Right. And when you're independent,
Right. Or I can cry and go to
mm-hmm.
work every day and never sleep again. And the work that you see is what I intended
Right.
on putting out.
Right.
I get upset when I send y'all the script and y'all change a scene because something didn't work right. I'm like, well, what the fuck? That's not what's in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult
Yeah.
to relinquish a story in
Right.
such a, but some people that's what they do,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that's okay. That's
Right.
fine. And
Right.
maybe one day I'll sell that one script that I didn't really care about.
Right.
But if I write right now to tell a story,
Right.
and I'm going to tell my story as I see fit.
Right.
Period.
And I think for writers out there who are writer directors, writer producers, like that's a really great lesson, because even for me as a producer or as a director, I usually am like, once the writer gives it to me, that's it. Like, that they have to divorce it. So when people come to me or come through my program and they're writers, I tell them, like, you have to divorce your story. But when you are the writer and you also have the means to create it, that's when you have control for what is on the paper to show up in the screen. Now, it doesn't mean you're not flexible, because I've seen plenty of projects where in the moment we got to be really flexible,
Right.
But definitely for those of you who are thinking about pursuing this, that's something to be very, very mindful of. Having to relinquish that control, trusting the process. And if it is your story and you want to create it, definitely go and learn the resources to create it. And showcase it. And there's an audience out there that wants to see your work and hear your story the way that you told it. And that is, it doesn't matter how weird or strange or small or big the story is, there's always an audience. There's always someone.
There is. There's always somebody. And I was at the Black Hollywood Film Festival in October, And the guy who directed, why the hell? My brain just cut off. What's the name of the play? The guy who directed for girls, for Color Girls,
Uh-huh.
the original play,
Mm-hmm.
received an award. And he said the reason he had never directed anything before in his life,
Mm-hmm.
but he told her, "I'm a director," and he directed that play
Mm-hmm.
that has now become this world renowned staple in the African American community as the play.
Yep.
And you can't, just because you write something, you I'm a director. When I did my first movie, I didn't know what I was doing,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm a director. I'm gonna figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
If it means that much to you,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna do whatever it takes
Right.
to get that story out there.
Mm-hmm.
By any means necessary turns into a totally different thing
Oh yeah.
when somebody tells you you can't do it.
Absolutely. That is motivation for me. Okay.
Yeah,
That's gas in
something
my engine.
totally different.
I started my whole company because somebody told me no in high school. Like, oh, word? Okay, watch this. 30
Yeah,
years later.
I don't do well with those. That don't feel good. I don't do well.
Um, so those of you who are watching, if you have any questions, please put them in the comments, and I will definitely make sure that I ask them. But before we wrap up, we're going to start to talk a little bit about how we can convince B.Danielle Watkins to drop season 2 on YouTube, okay? And so before we even get to that, season 2 in itself was a beast.
Man,
Even on
hands hands down, was a beast.
man, and so there were some really devastating things that happened to some of the cast and the crew. For me, my dad was diagnosed with cancer while we were filming. Shortly after that, my cancer diagnosis came in.
Uh-huh.
We had someone who lost their grandmother.
That's 3 on set. The
Yeah,
grandmother, that
3.
affects.
We had
Yeah.
an actress who was pregnant and who broke out in tears on set one day. It was, oh, my bestie almost went to jail one night.
You see, I was shaking my head like, so I almost got fight. Yeah,
It was a lot. And so
yeah.
what do you think that means? Because I really believe that like the universe is always conspiring with us, right? So what do you think all of that chaos, all of that hurt, all of the things that we had to overcome, what does that mean to you for season 2 and beyond?
Well, ultimately, the first thing I thought was we worked way too hard for season 2. I mean, going back to before we even started filming,
Yeah.
the first cancellation, money, all the build up to
Yeah.
that first day in September on set.
Yeah.
And then for 17 days straight,
17 guys.
17 days straight, I had a house full of 9 people in a 1-bedroom loft. We tore Michelle's house up. Michelle still has the tape on the windows now from us from Mario and Gino climbing up there, putting those stuff up there. We tore her house completely up for 17 days. Spending $500 in gas alone driving around the city to all the things that happened on set.
Right.
And then the editing process.
Mm-hmm.
Season 2 was such a burden, right? It has to be amazing. It had no choice but to come out what it is. And it
Mm-hmm.
has no choice but to translate even further wherever we take it.
Mm-hmm.
Because nothing that hard ever goes unnoticed. We worked too hard. We
Right.
went through too much for season 2 or the show itself to become
Mm-hmm.
unknown.
Right.
It's just, timing, we can't gauge that,
Right.
but the work is there. The
Absolutely.
cast and crew, hell, what I did, the work is there.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not talk about the boot camp and that shit. Right. You see a face? you know, season 2 definitely changed us.
Yeah. Oh
We
yeah.
had to grow up. We had to grow up in this.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I see one question that says, B, you really almost went to jail?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, no, because the police weren't called. So see, when you say almost go to jail, that sounds like police were involved and I was
Like
almost a
that.
criminal.
It was almost.
Ultimately, I was put in a position where had it gone further, I could have been placed in police custody. But thankfully,
Thank thank
not thankfully,
you.
Honest Keisha is a snitch. See,
I am a snitch, damn it. I was about to
so when
say
she
that.
got left in the house when I was on my way to do criminal activity, she told on me,
I did. I did.
which caused me to get detoured.
Thank God.
Whatever.
But yeah, I am a snitch.
We'll
I
we'll tell that story later.
oh yes.
I
Mm,
should have been allowed to go handle my business.
mm, 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 mm. But yeah,
Honest Keisha, bitch, and a punk.
because I wasn't getting in the car. That's the. I was like, oh, y'all going where? Okay, I'm gonna stay right here. And as soon as the door shuts, I was like, Michelle, for real.
Michelle laughing because Michelle ass was coming the other direction. We were all going. You messed everything up.
Yes. So, y'all might see that story in 30/30 the movie or 30/30 season 2, because that was another
Season 3.
season 3. Yeah. That was a moment like those other moments in 30/30. So do you have any advice for this transition from Reverie to YouTube for some people, or Reverie to whatever is next, because
Right.
we don't know what's going to happen next. For some people, it can be a deterrent, So how did you manage that transition?
Have I managed it?
Have you?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Business wise, I understand what we're doing.
Right.
Ultimately, all it is exposure.
Yeah.
It's just like it's almost like we're able to watch Fresh Prince on MTV on Saturdays because they play it on the mornings, and then BET plays it in the afternoon. It's
Mhm.
almost in my head like that
Right.
because now we're running reruns, right?
Right.
This is no longer premiere. This is no longer exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
Season 1 has been out for almost 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So this is essentially the syndication part of it.
Right.
Now we're just running, and now we need to run in places where people didn't see us before.
Right. Right.
So that's how I see it. I can't say if we did a season 3, I would be okay with saying, yeah, we'll just put season 3 on YouTube with the others.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say that's what I would do
Yeah.
because ultimately that would be after we've now introduced ourselves to this YouTube community. So now we have one community waiting for us.
Mm-hmm.
We have this other community that's saying, "Oh my God, we didn't see DC two seasons. Now what?
Right.
Wouldn't they come with us wherever we're gonna go?"
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That would
That
be the ultimate plan.
that would be the thought process. So
Right.
my thought process is always that next, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I'll comply for now. If you
You guys don't understand how real that is to comply.
I'll comply for now. I know this isn't forever.
Right.
What the Lord say, trouble don't last always.
Yeah.
And whatever the next move shall be, I will continue to have faith that that's where we're supposed to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Even if that means it's YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
that means that's where we were supposed to be.
Right. Right. And I think that's a lesson that everybody, no matter what field you're in, can take, having the faith that it is going to be what it is supposed to be, and just having that faith. So we have a question here from Eric. Can you talk about the growth in actors from season 1 to
The
season 2?
actor ain't supposed to ask that.
Well, let me answer it, okay?
No. That sounds like a set. That's a very loaded question. That sounds like somebody wants to hear how good they did in season 2.
Well, listen, I got to give props. Guys, I, have directed actors who are trained, studied, and do this for real, And this cast, it was all newbies. And season 1 was a bit of a struggle only because it's a trusting process. The actor has to trust me, the actor has to trust themselves and trust the process. And it was new to everybody. And so right before season 2, we had an intense actors boot camp. And once season 2 started to film, guys, these actors came in ready. They gave it their all. Their performances came up more than a couple of notches. And you saw the work, and that it was beyond just reading the lines on the paper. It was beyond, okay, this is supposed to be funny, so I'm going to say it like this. The actors really dissected who they were, why they were doing and saying what they were doing, and keeping that comedic timing. So, yeah, the actors really, really grew. And Eric is saying you are throwing shade.
Eric, because you know what? Just like on set, when I had to snatch my wig off and protest, I'm tired of everybody getting their kudos and everybody act like I wasn't on set.
You are awesome as well, Tyler.
I'm gonna release that scene. FYI, I'm gonna release it because we have footage of me snatching my wig off and quitting the show.
Quitting. She quit her own show.
Absolutely, I did. I was going home.
Yeah.
Tired of it.
Too funny. Okay, so someone says, what is a staple snack or meal that you always have on set? This is a great question because craft services matter so much. So for you, what is a staple snack or meal?
Listen, this is gonna sound very cliche, but I gotta cast the black people. Chicken always works. I'm just keeping it 100. When we had already exhausted whatever is happening, $25 in a bucket of chicken from Popeyes works. Okay. Now, when you're not in that position, we do things like pasta. Where there's a lot of it, or sandwiches, where you don't spend a whole lot of money, but there's enough food that it lasts and somebody can go back if they're still hungry and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But then we're extra, right? So then we got vegans, and then we got this, and we got that.
Yeah,
we had to make sure everybody got something,
yes.
And then the nerve of us to have something more than once, because then they get spoiled and bougie. Well, didn't we have cauliflower twice? You gonna have that shit tomorrow too? Like, what the hell? But ultimately, you're gonna look for what you can cook in bulk.
Yeah.
Feed and still not spend $1 million, because if you go to a restaurant and you're trying to feed 16 people so many days in a row, that's going to cost so much money. But if you go to the grocery store and you find somebody that'll cook it for you, or you find a budding caterer, somebody that'll take $1,000 and feed you for a week and a half, things like that. Because we were getting 2 meals a day. We were getting 2 meals a day.
I love the food. I was happy.
I feel like for season 2 we ate very well. I had ribs and some more stuff.
However, I see Coleon Sound says, "Can we get some crab legs too?" Joke.
But didn't we have that one day?
Yeah, I think we did. I don't remember.
Yeah, we
had lots of seafood.
Yeah.
So we have another question. Where do you want to see yourself in the next 10 years?
Oh, in 10 years, I will be 45 years old. By 45, I should be very settled in my filmmaking career.
Mm-hmm.
In 10 years, because you got to look at 10 years ago is when 10 years ago next August is when I released my first novel.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what I've accomplished in that 10 years. So that's 4 published novels, 2 web series that actually premiered, in addition to the other ones that we filmed. 50 plus film festivals, all, awards, all these different things that have built me up to here. By the time I get to 45, I can't go backwards.
Mm-hmm.
So the pacing that I see shows me nothing but my ultimate goal of writing full time, producing full time, and being a filmmaker for a full living.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I definitely touch and agree with you on that. Um, so I have a question here, and it says, "Will there be a season 3?"
Whew, Lord, I had to lean back on y'all on that one. So, we're being very honest in this.
Yeah.
If you'd asked me this last year, I would have said no.
Mm-hmm.
Where I am today, with the exception of the fact that Sarita is deployed. So, you know, prayers out to my bestie who is
Yeah.
out in the ocean somewhere right now, right?
Yeah.
Um, I can't do anything without her.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Reverie said, well, maybe when I said she was leaving, well, maybe you're going to have to write her out. You fucking kidding me? So, what I won't do is agree to anything before she's back in the States
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not going to do it without her.
Mm-hmm.
That's just period. Now, we can end it today, you know, but she wants one.
Mm-hmm.
Her feelings are different than mine.
Right.
I would be open to season 3 with a brand new start. I'll say it
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We have the material. Writing the seasons, writing it is nothing.
Right.
But I need to be comfortable and trustworthy in that production piece
Right.
to be able to.
Absolutely. And that's absolutely understandable. You have quite a few people who are saying release season 2. Just want to let you know. So we have another question. Are you going to share some of the funny moments or bloopers during filming of season 1 and season 2 on YouTube?
The season one is already up.
Mm-hmm.
It is edited. It's shorter than what we originally did,
Mm-hmm.
but the season one behind the scenes is up.
Mm-hmm.
We filmed everything we needed for a season 2 BTS.
Mm-hmm.
It's not edited. Um, yeah, it's not edited at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering. I mean, it depends. It depends on what this looks like, right? Because
Right.
if the demand for us is there, of course we need to keep people looking, and we can edit it and put it together and put it out. But the
Mm-hmm.
one for season 1 is there, and the one for season 2, it would be great
Mm-hmm.
because we filmed everything. We
Yeah.
filmed people falling. Oh my god, you remember when Bree went to kiss me and I fell off the couch? We have Sarita just falling for no reason. Like, we have all of that.
Set life is bananas. It
The
really
couch moved. I promise the couch moved.
I don't know if the footage shows the couch moving. It shows
No, the footage shows me go down.
shows you moving. I don't know if it shows the couch moving. So while we begin to wrap this up, um, first I want to know, how can the new 3030 fan base, because we're already claiming that, how can they let you know as a producer that season 2 would be worth releasing?
Comments. I need comments. I need messages. I need to see the numbers move.
Mhm. So,
Because
guys.
we need to see that there's a demand for it, right? I'm
Mhm.
not going to have all this content just sitting there, nobody's paying attention to it.
Right, right.
So numbers for season 1, even if the numbers move and we don't get that many comments,
Hmm.
the numbers for themselves. You know, if we get thousands of views, then okay,
Mm-hmm.
something we need to do.
Right.
But right now we sitting at, I think a couple. I know one episode's like at 100, one is at 50. You know, people have watched it today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if that doesn't pick up,
Right.
because I have to re-edit season 2 because I have to remove the Reverie stuff. We
Right.
edited season 1 prior to that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, you know, there are pieces, there's more to uploading the next 10 episodes than it is to season 1.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Definitely.
Michelle, that was season 1 when he did that.
Mm. I have no comment about that one. That was funny. If you guys see this comment, one of our amazing cameramen, yeah, he fell asleep with his laptop on, and we have a jokester on set, and
Yes.
yeah, and it was just a lot, but it was funny. Um, and I think that's totally fair about season 2. And so those of you who really, want to support the movement, share, tell people,
Right.
engage. That really does a lot. Especially during this time where some people are, struggling, and they need some comedy to kind of lighten the mood. That's what
Right.
30/30 is going to do. It's not heavy. It's not um, COVID-19, CNN news. It is
Right.
something that can help you escape for a little while. And I promise you, there's going to be some things in there that you relate to. No question about it. So we know what we need to do. We need to engage and let you know that we're watching season 1 and we're loving it. And we are looking forward to the next season. The next question is, what advice would you give to anyone who has a story budding inside of them?
You know, my advice never changes. I've asked this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Do it.
Mm-hmm.
Get it out. Even if you have to reach out to somebody. I mean, if they obviously have access to us, we're not accessible.
Mm-hmm.
Reach out. Tell your story because every story needs to be told. If it came up for a reason.
Right.
Like you said, I don't care if it's weird. I don't care what your story is.
Mm-hmm.
Put it out there.
Mm-hmm.
Ask for help. Do what you need to do to get your story told because your story is important.
Mm-hmm.
I have this hanging up on my desk right now. It says, "Your story matters. Share it with the world."
Mm-hmm.
Michelle bought this for me like 5, 6 years ago, and it hangs up over my desk because it's true. Your story matters. So
Right.
if you have it in you, you need to tell it. Period.
Yeah. Absolutely. I can't think of a better way to end this live, because that is definitely the theme of my life. That is the theme of your life. And out there,
Yes.
we really want that to be the theme of your life. We want you to just tell your stories. I always say you never know who your story is going to heal, who your story is going to inspire, who your story is going to
Right.
help. So tell it,
Right.
tell it, tell it. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Yes.
It was
You.
so important that we get on here and talk to B.Danielle about dropping 30/30 on YouTube today. Today. And I'm super proud of you for taking that chance and that opportunity and being open to the process. So I'm super proud of you for that because,
Thanks.
inside fan knows, okay? We know how difficult it was. And I'm just excited. I have full faith in the YouTube community, which I absolutely love, that they're going to show you love. So I'm super excited. Thank you for joining us. Please
Yeah.
stay safe and uplifted over there in Vegas. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. And those of you who are watching, please stay safe and uplifted and, support. Head over to YouTube. We will drop the link in the comments. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, B. Danielle. Bye.